Hi, today I'm showing the fourth and final installment of my 1961 Hall of Fame run. This one will be 24 cards. Each of the first three were 21 cards. There's 87 cards that I have, 84 Hall of Famers plus the 3 Maris cards. It took me 10 years to put this together. Really tried to search out really beautiful cards for every single one in the set, and I think I accomplished that. I really am proud of what I was able to put together and really enjoy looking at it, and I hope you enjoy looking at it too. So without further ado, I'll turn the camera around and show the rest of the 61 Hall of Fame run, which includes the awesome All-Stars where they're popping out of the newspaper. Okay, here's part 4 of my 1961 Hall of Fame run, and there's 24 cards in part 4. A little bit bigger than the first 3 parts, but we're starting off with a big card, the Mantle MVP card. Shows his MVP years of 56 and 57. The American League MVPs have the red background, and the National League MVPs have blue. And I showed kind of the backs of these cards in part 3. So if you didn't watch it, go back to part 3 and I'll kind of talk about the backs of the MVP cards. But I think it's a really nice mantle, and I think all the MVP cards are beautiful. I think they pop versus both the red and blue background. Next up, we have the MVP of Nellie Fox, commemorating his 59 MVP season. And Fox was the American League MVP in 1959. I really like this card. I think it's a great image of Nellie Fox, and I think it really works the way the bat is part of the image, and the way it's cropped out so you can see the red background. I really think that the Fox card pops. Next we have Maris, and as I said, if you watch the other parts, you can't do the Hall of Fame run without Maris in 61, even though he's not a Hall of Famer with his historic season. And I think of the 3 Mays cards, the first, his regular card's pretty iconic and beautiful, but I think the Maris MVP is probably the best looking of the 3. I like the way it's kind of an action shot of him finishing his majestic swing, and I think the Yankees colors really work well with the red background. Next we have Campanella, commemorating his 1951, 53, and 55 MVPs, and this to me might be the toughest card in the set. The MVP cards are plagued with print dots, and Campanella is probably worse than any of them, where it took me almost to the end. I think this was my second to last card, and I was looking for this one from day one to find a Campanella that didn't have a lot of print dots in the border. So this one was really tough to search out, and it's one I'm really proud to have. And if you look for this card, the centering is worse than the other MVPs, and the print dots are very prevalent. So if you can find one without it, it's kind of a unicorn. Next we have Willie Mays, commemorating his 1954 MVP, and I hate this card because it looks like a pajama card. I assume it was a picture when he was on the New York Giants and they wanted him on San Francisco or something, but for some reason they took the image off the cap, and to me it just it distracts from the rest of what could be a really cool Mays card. So of the MVPs, this one's probably my least favorite of them all. Here we have Aaron, and I think it's a good headshot of Aaron. You can see the Milwaukee cap. He's got his cap pulled up a little high. Good image of him, and a very good portrait shot of Aaron. Really like this one. Here's Ernie Banks, and I love every Ernie Banks card, and I really like that it shows the 2 MVPs, 58 and 59. Banks only has one card that I don't consider a really great looking card, and that's a 71, and this is no difference. It's just a great looking card of Ernie Banks. That ends the MVP, and we go back to some regular players before we go into the All-Star run that's at the end of the 61 set. This one's Jim Bunning, underrated pitcher for the Tigers in this card, and this one's kind of hard to find, I think, just because a lot of people don't grade the Bunning card. I don't know that it's necessarily that tough, but it was tough to find a nice one, as I think a lot of them are raw, and you probably can buy a raw one and get it graded and do okay on it just because it's hard to find. Shane Dist is one of my least favorite cards in the set. It's a portrait shot of him without his hat on, but it just seems very washed out with his kind of pale face with the white background behind that. I wish it had a darker background. So this one's nothing to write home about, but if I wasn't going for the 61 Hall of Fame run, I probably wouldn't have picked the Shane Dist as one of his to get. So moving from Shane Dist, we move to one of my favorites, and I think I showed this in my favorite 5, and it's the Willie McCovey. They used the same shot in the 63 card for Topps, but I think it looks better on 61 with more real estate. And this one's a sneaky tough card. It's a high number short print, so it's a little bit tougher than a lot of them in the set. Speaking of tough cards, again, this was one of my final ones to get. And that's the Wilhelm card, and for some reason this card is really tough to find centered, and with a dark background it's really tough to find with nice print. So I was super excited when I was able to find this card and snapped it up right away when I saw it. This moves into the All-Stars now, and there's quite a few Hall of Fame All-Stars in 61. It's kind of a really big year for the Topps All-Stars, and they use this idea again in the 1970 All-Stars, but for some reason I think it looks better in the 61 with the white border that matches the paper, the slightly off-white border, than it does in the 70 with the gray around it. But the first one is Nellie Fox, All-Star second baseman for the American League. Then we go to Maz, who's riding high in 61 after that big homer, and he's the All-Star second baseman for the National League. Brooks is at third base for the American League, and I really like this image of Brooks Robinson. I think it really looks cool in the newspaper with the darker background and the portrait image, and kind of how his hat kind of bleeds into the background. I just think it really pops with the newspaper around it. Next, we've got the American League shortstop in Aparicio. This one's kind of an action shot within the All-Star, and with the size of the photo, I don't know that it works that well, and it's also kind of a little bit blurry, not just on my card, but on all cards. You can see the registration's good by the way you can read the paper, but the image is a little bit blurry. National League shortstop, Ernie Banks. I love this card. I think it's one of the better looking All-Star cards in the run. I like that it's not just a portrait shot or really an action shot, it's just a different image of Banks. And I really liked it. If you look, you can see the scoreboard behind him, so that's pretty cool. Now we've got the outfielders. American League, we've got Roger Maris in right field. Coming off his year where he was second in home runs in 1960, and then of course 61's the year he hit 61, so I got all of the Maris cards from this run. National League right fielder is Hank Aaron, and I don't think there's a lot of cards without Aaron wearing a hat, so I kind of think it's cool to see him without a hat on, because this might be the only Topps card that's that way. If there's another one, I'm not thinking of it. So I think it's a different image than most. Next, we've got Mantle's All-Star. And I'd probably like this more, but it's really similar to his regular image and his MVP image. So Topps kind of used I think it was probably from the same shoot. They're not the exact same image, but images that are very similar for all three cards in 1961, which I think takes away from this one a little bit. But great center fielder in Mantle. And then the National League center fielder, we've got Willie Mays, and I love this card. I love the smile on his face. This might be the happiest you ever see Willie Mays in one of his cards, and I just think it really looks cool with him popping out of the newspaper with that big smile. Next up, we've got Al Kaline, the American League left fielder. So what an outfield with Kaline, Maris, and Mantle in the American League. And then in the National League, you have Aaron, Mays, and Frank Robinson. So unbelievable outfields for both leagues. And 5 of the 6 are Hall of Famers, and the other one is Maris, who in my mind should be. So some great outfielders playing in the 1960s in Major League Baseball, and a bunch of them were captured in this All-Star series. Next, we've got the American League pitcher, the left-hander, Whitey Ford. And Ford's in his classic Ford pose, as Chris and Mike talk about all the time when they do Showcase Showdown. It's like every Ford card. You ask Ford to pose for a picture, and this is what he does. So I think it's cool that he's got the classic pose, and I think it looks great with the newspaper around him. And then finishing off, the last card in the Hall of Fame run, and also the last card in the set, is National League left-handed pitcher Warren Spahn. So I really like the All-Stars with the newspaper, and with them being high numbers, they're a little bit more pricey than a lot of the All-Stars. All-Stars are generally a lot cheaper than the regular cards, but with this being a high number series at the end of the set, some of the prices are about the same as the regular series cards, which makes the 61 Hall of Fame run a little bit more difficult to get than some of the others, because you've got all of the MVPs, you've got the baseball thrills, and you've got the All-Stars. So 87 cards total, 84 Hall of Famers, plus the 3 Maris cards in the Hall of Fame run. So that concludes my series on the 61 Hall of Fame run. I hope you enjoyed looking at the cards, hearing me talk about the cards. If you like this series, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed already. I really appreciate everyone watching my videos, and I love the comments. So if you have any comments on this set or any of the cards, I would love to read them. I read all the comments, I respond to all of them, and I get excited to hear that collectors have thoughts on some of the stuff that I'm showing. So I really, really appreciate you watching. And I'm Brad's Vintage Collection. And remember, if you're not excited to add the card to your collection, you bought the wrong card.